This video is sponsored by Squarespace. The introduction of custodian Callidus Trovial Cash, the first woman custode, has left the Warhammer world buzzing. While I'm personally thrilled with this development, change can be daunting, especially in a universe as beloved as Warhammer. But with change comes new opportunities, and I'm looking forward to embracing them. Today, I'm so excited to be crafting my first canon female custode through Kitbashing, seamlessly blending the strength and grandeur of Custodes with this new, exciting lore. Along the way, we'll talk about some of the drama surrounding this shift in the Warhammer universe, as well as talk about why I am so excited for the future of Warhammer. I bought the Alaris Custodes box as my base point with no set plan in mind. I wasn't particularly drawn to any of the Custodes, since most of the models are just standing there. So I simply chose a box at random. After it arrived, I assembled my favorite parts. I love the wings on these pauldrons and the pointing finger with spear ready for battle, and went onto the kitbashing part of the project. These Custodes are massive, and the only line that I can think of that would reasonably fit are the Stormcast Eternals from Age of Sigmar. Luckily, I have plenty of those models lying around because they also have women in their ranks. My goal was to make the pose more dynamic. But beyond just the pose, there are a few other things I consider as well. First, I need to think about how well the two pieces will fit together. Then I consider how easy it will be to manipulate those parts. Lastly, I pay attention to those small details such as the direction of fabric. While it might seem trivial, I promise that these little nuances can significantly impact the final result. With my pieces chosen, I divide both pieces in half and eliminate any traces that these legs were originally Stormcast legs, including removing the apron to create space for this gladiator-esque belt. Then I meticulously sand down the surfaces with a file and then sandpaper to achieve a smooth finish. To ensure precision, I apply a layer of primer to double-check my work, as primer tends to expose any errors before the painting process even begins. Then I glue it all together. The Custodian Guard, known as Custodes, are revered as the most formidable soldiers in the galaxy and serve as the Emperor's personal bodyguards. Legend has it that the Emperor meticulously crafted each Custodian by hand, fashioning the ultimate warrior in mind and body. I like to envision these as artisanal Space Marines. And as a side note, I love the rumor that the Emperor crafted each custode by hand because that fits so well with me kitbashing this custode by hand. Next comes airbrushing. I start by applying a white primer followed by a magenta base coat. The magenta base coat will help the model look cohesive as a whole and serve as a great base for the golden armor and red fabric later. Then I assemble the model using blue poster tack to achieve an accurate zenithal effect while still allowing for painting in sub-assembly. This model is rather cumbersome due to the large spear and double fabric from the kitbashing. So working in sub-assembly ensures that I can paint every piece to the quality I want, instead of being limited to what may be feasible when it's all glued together. Before we continue, let's talk about Squarespace and their magic new feature, Squarespace Blueprint. Choose from professionally crafted layouts, customize them to reflect your style quickly, and utilize Squarespace's drag and drop fluid engine for enhanced control. Seamlessly integrate your social media and accelerate your growth with integrated, optimized SEO tools. No matter if you're selling products, classes, or showing off your work, Squarespace Blueprint will save you so much time, giving you more time to finish those gray models. When you're ready to start, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code LYLAMEV. Use code LYLAMEV to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All right, back to painting. Red and yellow can be difficult to work with, so I want to apply my base coat of each color with an airbrush. To do this, I use Silly Putty to mask off the golden areas while I paint the red fabric, then reverse the process to apply yellow. Silly Putty is great because it can be used over and over and can quickly be removed without leaving any residue behind. If you mess up like I did here, just carefully reapply your color. There are two main arguments attached to the Codex update. First is the lore. Now, lore can be really important, it just depends on your personal preferences. For me, I have a more relaxed view on lore, which is why I'm using my favorite gold recipe on these Custodes: yellow, magenta, and deep red. I know this isn't the traditional gold non-metallic metal recipe, but painting vibrant models is my thing. But to others, lore is the foundation of the entire game. Throughout GW's history, only male Custodes have ever been mentioned. While it's never explicitly stated that all Custodes are men, phrases like chosen son and brotherhood heavily imply the male-centric composition. This, however, is in contrast to Space Marines, where it is specifically stated that all Space Marines are men. As a footnote, author Aaron Dombrowski-Broden explained that the writers wanted to include female Custodes, but was told no because there were no female Custodes in the line that they were releasing at the time. The next argument revolves around the application of this change. In my approach to painting, I am prioritizing efficiency in my application of colors, putting them down in whatever way is fastest. I start with wet blending to lay down my general colors and then transition to layering for increased precision. Given the translucent nature of yellow and orange, I utilize near white shapes to outline my highlights, then create layers along my gradient to create a smooth transition from my darkest muted magenta to a cool near white yellow. GW's handling of the new lore announcement has left much to be desired. The sudden shift from "there has never been a single example of a female Custode ever" to "there have always been female Custodes" feels quite abrupt and jarring. Personally, I interpreted that statement as meaning that in universe there have always been female Custodes, rather than implying that GW had always intended for there to be women but never disclosed it. There are two ways the application of this change could have been handled better. First, GW could have openly acknowledged that this is a retcon, providing clarity and transparency to fans. Alternately, they could have introduced new lore to explain the inclusion of female Custodes, which would have also addressed the concerns raised in the first argument. Let's talk about the most interesting part of the model and the most interesting part of this debate. Let's work on the woman in this armor. I'm starting by painting the eye shape with a dark purple to act as eyeliner before placing a smaller layer of white right on top, leaving a ring of dark purple around it to act as eyeliner. Next is basing the skin and hair, shaping the eyeliner with my skin tone, then glazing in shadows and highlights and adding makeup to really make her pop. The most interesting aspect of this entire debate is the intensity of the rage fueling it. Whether directed towards the lore or its application, there is a significant amount of negativity swirling around on the internet. Some people are even discussing quitting Warhammer altogether, convinced that this change is ruining the entire game. It's a dramatic response to something that ultimately doesn't have a meaningful impact on the story or gameplay. I understand the fear underlying these reactions. The worry is that this is just the first step in what will slowly become a complete overhaul of the game. However, I believe it's important to refrain from jumping to conclusions until a pattern emerges. This is just a single change, and it's entirely possible to simply ignore it if it doesn't align with your personal preferences. So let's hold back on our fears for now and refrain from panicking prematurely. And while I wrap up the last few details on this model, let's wrap up how I feel. It's time to paint the details on the belt, the filigree on the cloak, and anything else I might have missed. Then, assembly. I think that this is a fantastic compromise between the group of people who have been saying they want female Space Marines, lore be damned, and those staunchly against that change. This new lore can fit into the GW universe with very little retcon and can actually open up opportunities for new stories if GW decides to take it. I'm also excited that there is a female option beyond Sisters of Battle and Sisters of Silence. While the models for both chapters are pretty cool, they often feature exaggerated and impractical armor designs that emphasize the sexual features of the model, such as exaggerated breastplates, wasp waist, and large hips, which is the opposite of what I want to paint. Besides, we all know that Space Marines are the main characters, and I want to paint a female main character too, though the lore of Sisters of Battle is pretty cool. On the other hand, the Sisters of Silence only speak through sign language. Like, seriously? I know in theory it's cool, but no one thought about how this removes the agency from the women and reinforces the idea that women's voices aren't valued. Like, yeah, I don't blame them for not pushing Sisters of Silence that much. However, there is one thing that I'm really frustrated about. We're running into the very situation that GW wanted to avoid when they first said no to including female Custodes. There are no women heads. Come on, give me the women heads so that I can have women Custodes. It's not like the Sisters of Battle or Sisters of Silence heads are going to fit on these gigantic bodies. It is my hope that with watching this video and seeing how excited I am, you too can become excited about this change. I understand that Games Workshop didn't do this in the best way possible, but that doesn't mean it's a bad change or that it's ruining the game. Overall, you can totally ignore the change if you want to, but let me have the change because I'm really fucking excited. If you like what I do, the best way you can support me is to join me over on Patreon. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe. Of course, let me know your opinion on all of this, and I'll see you next time.